Hello students, welcome to Distinction Learning Platform, and on this platform you find revisions, explanation to difficult topics, a lot of stuff. So before we begin our lesson here, make sure that you subscribe and like the video. And on top of that, there is a link in the description below, and it will take you to the website where there are some notes, there are some past papers that you need to follow, and there are some like answers to those past papers. So make sure that you click on the link in the description. All right. So to make the story short, let us begin with the endocrine system. Okay. So now, what is endocrine system? So just to make sure that you understand about this system, is that everything that we do, it is connected. Okay. The body organs, the heart, the brain, the muscles, everything, they work together in order for you to perform a specific function. Like for me to speak, there has to be like some communication between different organs, and there are two important systems that helps the organs to communicate with one another. Otherwise, if there is no communication between different organs, basically there will be what? There will be no communication, or there will be no specific function that's going to be performed. Okay, so now we need to understand about the endocrine system, because it is the system that's going to help organs to communicate with one another. Okay, now what is this system all about? So endocrine system, let us write something. Endocrine system is a system, and that deals with what? So system that deals with the production of hormones. Productions of hormones, and these hormones are going to be produced by what? Endocrine glands. Produced by endocrine glands. Okay, so all in all, we are saying, what is this endocrine system? So endocrine system, it is a system of coordination that deals with what? The production of hormones produced by endocrine glands. So what I'm telling you is that the moment you just see the hormone or the endocrine gland producing hormones, basically that gland is under what we call the endocrine system. But just to take you back so that you can understand something, remember, if you say cells, so group of cells, they are going to make up what? If these cells are working together, they are going to form what we call tissue. We know that, okay? So what is a tissue? A tissue is a group of cells that are working together, okay? Now, what about these tissues? If these tissues are working together, they are going to form what we call an organ, okay? And group of organs, what are they going to form? If they are working together, basically they are going to form what we call a system. Okay, and basically we know that group of systems, they're going to produce what we call organisms. So you need to understand about this, because we're talking about this here part, which is the system. So you need to understand it. So this system that we're talking about, a good example, we're saying the endocrine system. So this endocrine system is going to have a lot of organs that are working together, but instead of saying organs, they use this specific word, they use gland. Okay, so basically it's just one and the same. So if you say the glands that are working together, then they're going to form what we call a specific system. And this system that we're talking about is what? The endocrine system. Again, to take you back, this system of coordination, which we're calling to say the endocrine system, deals with what? The production of hormones that's going to help for an individual or for an organ to perform a specific function. Like this function that I'm talking about are what? Like walking around, speaking, all those things that are coordinated by two important systems that we'll talk about, which is the first one is the endocrine system. Okay? Now, let's come here. So there are two important systems of coordination. So if you say system of coordination, we are talking about the systems that helps the communication between organs to be possible. Okay, the first one that I've talked about is what? The endocrine system. So the endocrine system is a system of coordination. Why is it called the system of coordination? Because it helps organs to communicate with one another or to be organized. So it helps to organize information that is going to the organs. Okay, basically you can just put it under what? Communication between organs. So if you say system of coordination, it means what? It means organs are what? There is a system that is making sure that organs are communicating with one another. The first system is what? The endocrine system. Let us write this one. The first system of coordination is what? We are saying the endocrine system. Okay. What is the second system that is important in helping organs to communicate with one another? What is that? We know that is now the nervous system. Nervous system. So if someone asks you to say, name two systems of coordination, and we know the meaning of system coordination, right? We know that system of coordination, these are the systems that help both organs to communicate with what? One another, okay? And there are two systems of coordination. The first one is what? The endocrine system, and the second one is what? The nervous system. And just to summarize, we said the endocrine system deals with what? Production of what? Hormones. So in bracket, I'm going to put hormones here. So the moment you just see hormones, basically, you need to remember to say, we're talking about what? The endocrine system. Now, the question that we are going to ask is that, what about the nervous system? What does it use in order for both organs to start communicating with one another? So it uses what we call nerve impulse. Okay, this one is going to use nerve impulse, and we'll talk about it in other lessons or the future videos. Okay, so make sure that you stay tuned on nervous system. Very, very important. Okay, and if someone asks you to say which one is faster between the endocrine system and the nervous system, basically if someone is using nerve impulse, it's going to be faster. So the nervous system is faster when it comes to communication compared to what? The endocrine system. Okay, so since we are pretty clear about what? The system of coordination, the two systems of coordination, then let's go to the what? The endocrine system. Since we said it is a system that deals with what? The production of what? Hormones by endocrine glands. Okay, so now since we've introduced the new word, which is endocrine gland, this one. So let us use, right, this one, this word. Okay, so since we've introduced endocrine glands, so what are those? Remember what I said about here? We said a gland basically is going to have a lot of tissues that are performing specific function and they are working together. Then that's what we call a gland, right? Now, endocrine gland, you need to differentiate because there are a lot of glands in our body. So you need to differentiate them from what? Other glands in our body. So how do endocrine glands differentiate themselves from what? Other glands in our body? Okay, so you need to understand about that. Now you need to understand to say endocrine glands. So I'm going to put here something which is very, very important and you need to understand about them. So just a little bit about the endocrine glands. So endocrine glands are what? Ductless glands. So let's put this in very important information here. Ductless glands. So you need to understand if they say ductless gland. So ductless gland, what does it mean? It means that a gland which do not contain or which do not have what? The duct. So what do I mean? If this is an endocrine gland like that, and this is a blood vessel. This is a blood vessel. So this gland, they don't have what? This connection. This is a duct. The connection between this gland and the blood vessel, we call it what? A duct. Okay? Why is there a duct? Because so that anything that will come from this gland can pass through this what? This duct, and it can go to the blood vessel there. Okay? Because in blood, that's what transportation of different things happens. Okay? And because we need to transport anything that's going to be produced by that gland. Now, the fun fact is these endocrine glands, they do not contain this duct, which is very, very important. They do not contain this duct. Okay. Now the question that we can ask is that now if they do not contain this duct, how do substances like hormones, because we said endocrine glands, they produce what? Hormones. Okay, that's another important fact that you need to understand. Now you can ask yourself, since they do not contain this duct, no wonder they are called ductless gland. Now, how do hormones come from this endocrine gland and find themselves in a blood vessel? Okay, to answer that question is that these hormones, they just diffuse. Remember about diffusion? Diffusion basically doesn't need any tube. Okay, like let's say I try to if there's something that is like perfume, let me just say perfume. Okay, there's a high concentration on a certain part. When it comes to perfume, that perfume particles, they will start diffusing from that high concentration of perfume, then going to the lowest concentration of what? Perfume. And it doesn't need any duct there. So also the hormones are going to use that process. They are going to just diffuse. Let's say if this is the hormone produced by this gland, this one, okay, and this is, so it's more like they are just diffusing across this space up until they reach the what? The blood vessel, like that. So they are ductless what? Gland. Okay. What is another important fact about the endocrine glands? Another important fact is what? They produce what? Produces what? Hormones. Okay. Make sure that you understand. Okay. So that's the important thing that you need to understand. Now, question that you can ask is that what are those good examples of those endocrine glands? So because you need to understand the names or the examples or the types of those endocrine glands. Why? Because they like asking questions under what? Examples or types of endocrine glands. So let's start with the first type. Okay, let's start here. Examples of endocrine glands. So what are those? So the first important example we know, and I've already written it here, which is what? The pituitary gland. So let us write this one. The first good type of what? This endocrine gland that produces hormones and that are what? Ductless. Basically, they are going to, the good example will be what? Pituitary gland. Pituitary gland. And under pituitary gland, we'll explain it here in detail so that you understand it, why you can find it, and what is the major function of it. Okay, so that's the first good example of what? The pituitary gland. What is the next one? The next one is what? We know this one. We know the pancreas. The pancreas. Okay, and we'll talk about the pancreas in the future video so that you understand it separately, because it has a lot of stuff that you need to understand. Right? Okay, now let's go to another one. We have another one, which is the thyroid gland. So these are the things that we'll talk about. Thyroid gland. Okay, thyroid gland. So this is why. Okay, thyroid gland. What is another one? Apart from the thyroid gland, we have another one, which is the testis. The testis or the ovaries, as also these, we'll talk about them. The testis and what? Ovaries, one of the types or examples of endocrine glands. And we have the last one. The last one is what? Do you know that? It is what? The adrenal glands. This is the last one. It's very, very interesting to learn about the adrenal glands. Okay. So basically, how many glands are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about, the first one is what? The pituitary gland. The second one is what? The pancreas. The third one is what? Thyroid gland, testis, ovaries, as well as now adrenal glands. Okay. Now let's just pick one good example here so that we understand what really happens here, or using this diagram. Okay. Although at least we have a little bit information about this endocrine gland, the behavior of these endocrine glands. Okay. Now let's pick this one. You know, this structure that is being shaped. Do you know the name of that? Yes, we know. This is what we call what? This one is what we call a kidney. Okay? Now, just above the kidney, there is what? An important gland. Okay? So just above the kidney, have you seen this blue gland? Yes, which is on top of the kidney. Do you know the name of that? Yes, we know. Okay? The name of this one is what we call the adrenal gland. So this gland. Okay? This adrenal gland, basically, you can find it on top of the what? Kidneys. Okay? Now, let us understand fully about these adrenal glands. Okay? So these adrenal glands, basically, they are going to produce specific hormones that we'll talk about in future videos. Okay? They produce adrenaline. They produce also aldosterone. So we'll talk about them. Okay? Now, as you can see, as we talked about here, we said these endocrine glands, they are ductless because they do not contain a duct where things will pass from and connect with a blood vessel. Same applies to the adrenal gland. As you can see, this is a blood vessel and this adrenal gland, they are not connected like that. There is no duct there. Okay? Now, what's going to happen is that this adrenal gland is going to produce something which we call hormone. If it produces hormone, it's going to diffuse like that. It's going to diffuse up to this blood vessel. Okay, the moment now it's in the blood vessel, it will go to the target organ. So target organ will understand it here so that we see what it means when you say target organ. So the moment it is in the blood vessel, this hormone produced by the adrenal gland, it will go to different target organs. All right. Now, since now we've talked about another important thing, hormone. Okay, so let us highlight this. Let us highlight this. So we've talked about this hormone word. Okay, so now what are these hormones? So we need to understand them. How do they look like? How do we know these hormones? Okay, what are those properties of hormones? We need to understand them. Okay, so that's why there is this part. So what is this hormone? So what are hormones? So because you're going to be asked or assessed during what? An exam. So what are these hormones? Hormones are what? Are chemical messengers. So it's more like I'm going to give you another scenario. If this is an endocrine gland, okay, and this is the heart, I'm going to use something like this. If this is the heart, like that, this is the heart, and this is what? An endocrine gland, like that, okay? So what happens is like this. So these endocrine glands, they are capable of what? Producing hormones, like that. So these are hormones produced by the what? Endocrine glands. Now, the reason why we are saying these hormones, let us use this one. These are hormones. This is H8 hormones, like that. So these hormones, they are produced by endocrine glands. But to describe these hormones, these are what we call chemical messengers. So just from the word chemical messenger. So who is a messenger, or what is a messenger? So a messenger basically is something that will carry information so that it can carry that information to the what? Target thing. It could be here the target organ. So it's just carrying information. So basically these hormones that are produced by endocrine gland, they will be carried by what? By the hormones. So no wonder we are saying the hormone is what? A chemical messenger. It just carries information coming from the what? Endocrine gland, and it will take where? To a certain organ. Maybe a good example of that organ could be what? The heart. Okay, it is carrying that information toward the heart. Okay, then look at it. It is there already in the what? In the heart. Now, the question that you can ask is that why is this like hormone going to the heart? I've just given one example of that, okay? So, this heart, because let's say I'm going to give you a certain scenario. If someone wants to run, what do you think to the heartbeat? Okay, what do you think is going to happen? Heart rate, heartbeat, what do you think? It will go up, it will go up. Now, ask yourself to say, what tells the heart to start pumping very fast if someone is doing some exercise? It's because of what? The endocrine system. The endocrine system is going to detect that someone is running. If someone is running, that information will be taken up by those endocrine glands and send those messages going to the what? Target organ. And good example is the heart, and telling the heart these chemical messengers, since they are messenger, they are carrying information, they will tell the heart to start pumping very, very fast. Otherwise, if the heart doesn't do that, someone is going to collapse, it's going to fail. Okay, so that's what I mean. So now let us write something here. So what is hormone? We're saying hormone are what? Chemical messengers. Okay, and they are produced by what? That are produced by what? By endocrine glands. And the reason why we're saying chemical messenger, because there are a lot of messengers. There are prophetic messengers. There are a lot of types of messengers. But the reason why we're saying chemical messengers, because these are messengers that are found within the body, inside the body. Everything that should be chemical. Okay? Okay, that's about hormones. Now, we said also we'll talk about the target organ, because these hormones, once they are produced by the endocrine gland, they'll go to the target organ. Okay, so like I gave this good example. Let's say this is an endocrine gland. It can be either of these. It can be pituitary, pancreas, thyroid. One of those could be one of a good example of what this endocrine gland. Now, the moment this endocrine gland produces this hormone, something that is receiving that hormone is what we call a target organ. Okay, a receiver of that information is called what? A target organ. And target organs can be a lot of them. It's not just the heart, it can be a lot of organs. It can be the liver, it can be the heart itself, it can be the kidneys itself, it can be the spleen, the adenoid, a lot of organs in the body. It can be the what? The target organ. So target organs are what? Organs that are receiving the chemical messengers, or organs that are receiving hormones. Okay, so target organs are what? Organs receiving what? So let us use blue. So organs receiving what? Hormones. So organs receiving what? Hormones, in order to perform what? A certain function. In order to perform a certain function. Okay, these are what we call target organs. E.g., what are those good examples of target organs? We said heart. Okay, what else? We said the kidneys themselves. Okay, we say the liver, the lungs. It can be a lot of them. These are what we call target organs. Okay, now to complete this video, let's talk about one good example of what? The endocrine gland, which is the pituitary gland. So we'll talk about the pituitary gland here and everything that you need to understand about the pituitary gland. Okay, now what is the pituitary gland? So the pituitary gland, the first question that we're going to ask ourselves is that, where can you find the pituitary gland? Because the location of these endocrine glands is very, very important. Okay, where you can find them. Otherwise, if you don't know, they're going to ask you during an exam, then you're going to fail. Okay, so the question that you can ask is that, where can you find this pituitary gland? So the pituitary gland can be found in the what? In the brain. Basically, if you look at the brain is categorized into what? Different regions. We have the forebrain, we have the hindbrain, we have the midbrain. But where you can find the pituitary gland is in the what? Forebrain. So let us write that. So where can you find the pituitary gland? We are saying located in the what? Forebrain. Located in the what? Forebrain. Okay, forebrain. Now, if you look at this diagram, this is actually showing you the central nervous system. Okay, the central nervous system. Remember that it's going to have this brain and also the spinal cord. Now, as you can see, this red structure is what we call the pituitary gland. As you can see, this is the forebrain, which is here, and this is the midbrain, and this is the midbrain, and this is what the hindbrain. Okay, make sure that you understand. This red thing that is coming out of the forebrain is what we call the pituitary gland. I'll just use P. Okay, so if someone asks you to say, where can you find the pituitary gland? What can you say? You can say you can find it in the what? Forebrain. Okay? What else? What else are you supposed to know about the pituitary gland? The pituitary gland is called the what? It is called the master gland. So pituitary gland is a what? Master gland. Okay? So pituitary gland is a master gland. Why? So a question they can ask you to say, why is this pituitary gland that is located in the forebrain, and it's the one that comes out of the forebrain, that's below the hypothalamus. Okay, now why is it called the master gland? Because this question is a common asked question, so mean that you are going to be asked on why the pituitary gland, why it is called the what? The master gland. The reason why it's called the master gland, it is because it has that ability of controlling other endocrine glands. So let us try to understand what I'm talking about. So this pituitary gland, the reason why it is called the master gland, it is because it is able to control these other endocrine glands. It is able to control the pancreas to function. It is able to control the thyroid gland, testes, adrenal gland. That's why it is called the what? The master gland. That's from the word master. Master means someone or something that's able to control other things. Okay, so no wonder it's called the master gland. Why? Because what we can say here in brackets, we can say controls other endocrine glands to function. So we can put here controls other endocrine glands to function. So that's the main reason. So if they ask you this question, why it's called a master gland, you can say it is because it has that ability to control other what? Endocrine gland to function. Okay, like these endocrine glands. Very, very important. Now the other important thing is, what are the good examples of hormones produced by the what? The pituitary gland. Okay, very, very important. There are a lot of hormones produced by the pituitary gland. That's the main reason why it's called the master gland, because it produces a lot of hormones again. But I'm not saying you say because it produces a lot of hormones. No, you say the reason why it's called the master gland because it controls other endocrine glands to function. Okay, so let us talk about the examples of hormones produced by the what? Endocrine system. Okay, so let us talk about that. Examples of hormones produced. So what are those examples of hormones produced by the pituitary gland? Let us start with the first ones. We have this one which we call the stimulating hormones. We have the thyroid stimulating hormone. We have this one, thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay, and we'll abbreviate it as the TSH. Okay, thyroid stimulating hormone. So this is hormone. Let me put hormone here. Thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay, abbreviated as what? TSH. So that's thyroid stimulating hormone. It is the one produced by the what? Pituitary gland. We have another one, a lot of them, follicle stimulating hormone. Okay, we have luteinizing hormone. Okay, let us use blue, this one. We have luteinizing hormone. Okay, we have a lot of them. So we have growth hormone. Okay, what else? We have, apart from growth hormone, we have adrenal stimulating hormone, we have a lot of them. So we have antidiuretic hormone, okay. We have a lot of them, so I'm just going to put here, we have prolactin, so a lot of hormones that are going to be produced by the what? The pituitary gland, a lot of them. So we're going to highlight the most important hormones that we'll talk about in the next video, okay? So we'll talk about the luteinizing hormone, we'll talk about the follicle stimulating hormone, because these are the important hormones that that helps in what? Menstrual cycle. So we'll talk about that in the next video, okay? The thyroid stimulating hormone, the growth hormone, adrenal stimulating hormone, or the adrenocorticotrophic hormone, that's the other name. These are also important but not mostly examinable, okay? And that's where we end from, and make sure that you subscribe and don't forget to like the video. See you in the next lesson. All the best.